Imagine this. You've just dropped $5 million on a penthouse in San Francisco. You have floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic views of the bay. Your neighbors are tech billionaires, former NFL stars, and hedge fund managers. You have finally arrived. This is the absolute pinnacle of luxury living. One morning, you drop a marble on your kitchen floor, and it rolls. Not just a little bit, it rolls fast, relentlessly, straight toward the window, 58 stories above the street. That is the exact moment you realize your $5 million investment isn't a dream home. It's a disaster. A $350 million, fully certified, fully approved disaster. The Millennium Tower in San Francisco is sinking into the earth. It is leaning to one side, and after the city spent $100 million on a repair that was supposed to fix the problem, the building is now actually bending in the middle. This is the story of how one of the most ambitious skyscrapers in American history became the most expensive structural mistake of the 21st century, and what it tells us about what really happens when greed and gravity collide. To understand how catastrophic this failure is, you first have to understand what the Millennium Tower was supposed to be. Back in 2005, when they first broke ground, this was not just another apartment building. This was a statement. Developed by Millennium Partners, one of the heaviest hitters in American luxury real estate, the tower was designed to be the most exclusive address on the West Coast. It stood 645 feet tall, with 58 stories and 419 units, all selling for prices that ranged from $1.5 million for an entry-level apartment to over $10 million for the penthouses. And for that kind of money, you did not just get an apartment. You got a private concierge, a Michelin-starred restaurant inside the building, a private screening room, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and a view of the San Francisco Bay that was priceless. When the doors opened in 2009, the demand was overwhelming. All 419 units sold out quickly, bringing in over $750 million in total sales. Joe Montana, the legendary 49ers quarterback, bought a place here. Venture capitalists, tech founders, top lawyers, the absolute elite of the Bay Area lined up to get in. For a brief, shining moment, the Millennium Tower was the most coveted address in California. But while the champagne was flowing and the moving trucks were coming and going, a silent, invisible disaster was already unfolding deep underground. A disaster that had been set in motion long before the first resident ever received their keys. San Francisco is a beautiful city, but geologically speaking, it is a nightmare for builders. Much of the downtown area, and especially the financial district, in the Soma neighborhood where the Millennium Tower stands, is not built on solid rock. It is built on a mixture of loose sand, mud, and landfill. In the 1800s, this area was literally part of the bay, filled in with debris from the gold rush, and later with the rubble from the 1906 earthquake. So how exactly do you build a 58-story, incredibly heavy concrete skyscraper on top of soft mud? The standard approach for a building of this massive scale is what engineers call end-bearing piles. These are foundation pillars that are driven deep into the ground, punching straight through all the soft layers of mud and sand until they hit solid bedrock. It is expensive, it is time-consuming, but it is the absolute guarantee that your building is not going anywhere. The developers of the Millennium Tower, however, chose a different approach. They used friction piles. Instead of drilling the piles all the way down to the bedrock, which in this specific area sits about 200 feet deep, they drove 950 concrete piles, only 60 to 90 feet into the ground, stopping in a dense layer of colma sand and clay. The entire idea behind friction piles is that the friction between the soil and the sides of the concrete pillars will be enough to hold the building up. Now, to be fair, this is not an illegal or completely unheard of engineering technique. Other buildings in San Francisco use friction piles too. But here is the crucial difference. The Millennium Tower is built almost entirely out of cast-in-place concrete. rather than a lighter steel frame. The building is unprecedentedly heavy. We are talking about a structure that weighs roughly 700 million pounds. Engineers had predicted that the building would settle into the ground over its lifetime. That is perfectly normal. They estimated that over several decades, the tower would sink about 4 to 6 inches. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. By 2016, rumors started swirling. Residents were noticing strange things happening inside their luxury apartments. Doors would not stay open. Golf balls would roll across the floor all by themselves. Unexplained cracks began appearing in the concrete walls of the underground parking garage. When engineers were finally brought in to measure the building, the results were staggering. The Millennium Tower had not sunk the predicted 6 inches, it had sunk 16 inches. And even worse, it was not sinking evenly. The building was leaning. It had tilted 2 inches at the base, which translated to a terrifying 14-inch lean at the very top of the 58 stories. San Francisco had accidentally built its own Leaning Tower of Pisa. But why was it happening so fast? The developers immediately pointed a blaming finger at the massive construction site right next door. Right next to the Millennium Tower, the city was building the Trans-Bay Transit Center, a massive underground transportation hub. To build it, they had to dig a 60-foot deep hole in the ground, and to keep that massive hole from flooding with groundwater, they had to pump out millions of gallons of water. This process, known as dewatering, essentially sucked the water out of the soil directly beneath the Millennium Tower. According to the tower's developers, this caused the sand and clay that were holding up their friction piles to compress and consolidate, dragging the heavy skyscraper down with it. But the government agency building the transit center fired back hard. They claimed the tower was already sinking far beyond its engineering limits long before they ever started pumping a single drop of water. They argued that the developers had simply built a building that was far too heavy on a foundation that was far too weak, and that it was all done just to save a few $1 million on construction costs. And just like that, the great blame game began. The stakes could not have been higher. What followed was one of the most complex and expensive legal battles in the history of American real estate. It became a chaotic web of lawsuits. The homeowners sued the developers. The developers sued the city agency, building the transit center. The city agency countersued the developers. At one point, the residents even started suing each other over who should be paying the massive legal fees. Are you starting to see where this is going? While the lawyers fought it out in court, the residents were trapped. Their ultra-luxury apartments, once the envy of the entire city, became virtually unsellable overnight. Property values plummeted. Apartments that were bought for $5 million were suddenly worth half that amount, if you could even find a buyer willing to take on the massive risk. And the worst part? The building did not care about the lawsuits. It just kept sinking. By 2018, the tower had sunk 18 inches, and the lean at the top had grown to a terrifying 26 inches. Something had to be done. Before the building leaned so far that it damaged the elevators, ruptured the plumbing, or, in the event of an earthquake, became structurally unsafe, they needed a fix, and they needed it fast. Enter the perimeter pile upgrade. This was a bold, highly engineered, and incredibly expensive rescue mission. The plan was to spend $100 million to effectively prop up the sinking side of the building. The engineers proposed installing 52 new massive steel and concrete piles along the north and west sides of the building, the sides that were sinking the fastest. But this time, they were not taking any chances with friction. These new piles would be driven a full 250 feet deep, anchoring directly into the solid bedrock. Once in place, massive hydraulic jacks would be used to transfer a portion of the building's weight, about 20% of it, onto these new supports. The promise was huge. The engineers claimed the solution would not only stop the sinking, but it would actually reverse the tilt. They predicted that, over time, the tower would be straightened out by up to 4 inches, It sounded like a brilliant solution, a $100 million band-aid that would finally put the nightmare to rest. But the laws of physics do not care about your budget, and they certainly do not care about your engineering models. When the construction crews started drilling the massive holes for the new piles in 2021, the vibrations and soil displacement caused the building to sink even faster. In just a few months of repair work, the tower sank another inch and tilted another 5 inches. The city was forced to order a complete halt to the rescue mission. Eventually, the work resumed with a scaled-back plan. Instead of 52 piles, they only installed 18. In 2023, the weight transfer was finally completed. So, did the $100 million repair work? Did it correct the tilt by the promised 4 inches? No. It corrected the tilt by exactly 1 inch. But that is not even the worst part. Think about it for a second. The northwest corner of the building is now rigidly locked onto solid bedrock. It cannot move down anymore. But the massive, heavy core of the building, where the elevators and the bulk of the structural weight are located, is still resting on the old, sinking clay. What happens when you hold up the edges of a heavy object, but let the middle keep sinking? It bends. Engineers call this phenomenon dishing. The massive concrete foundation mat that holds up the entire Millennium Tower is no longer flat. It is bowing in the middle. The building is not just leaning anymore. It is now experiencing structural bending stress. The engineers assure the public that the foundation is thick enough, a massive 10 feet of solid concrete, to absorb this bending without cracking or failing. They say the building is perfectly safe. But if you are a resident who has already spent years living in a sinking, leaning tower, only to be told that the $100 million repair has now caused the building to bend, how safe do you really feel? For the people living in the Millennium Tower, this is not just a technical case study or a legal drama. It is their daily reality. Imagine walking into your multi-million-dollar bathroom and noticing the marble tiles are starting to crack, or trying to close your front door, only to find the door frame is so warped that it won't latch. In some apartments, the floors are so uneven that furniture slowly slides toward the windows on its own, and it doesn't stop at the apartments. Down in the basement levels, massive structural cracks have appeared in the concrete walls of the parking garage. The smell of sewage has occasionally permeated the lower floors because the plumbing pipes, which were designed for a perfectly straight building, have been stretched and contorted by the sinking. The psychological toll is immense. Some residents have simply walked away, taking massive financial losses just to escape the constant stress. Others are trapped, unable to sell their apartments for anywhere near what they paid. And the question that haunts every single resident who still lives there is simple: what happens when the big one hits? San Francisco sits right next to the San Andreas Fault. If a major earthquake strikes, how will a 58-story concrete tower that is already sinking, leaning and bending hold up? The engineers say it will be fine. The city says it's safe to occupy. But the residents? They are the ones who have to sleep there at night. So where does the Millennium Tower stand today? Is it saved? Is it doomed? The truth lies somewhere in the terrifying middle. The $100 million perimeter pile upgrade has, for now, significantly slowed the sinking on the northwest corner, but the building is still leaning. It is still over 2 feet off center at the top, and the massive foundation mat is still dealing with the stress of dishing. There are other leaning buildings in the world, of course. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is the most famous example. Pisa is a 183-foot bell tower built in the 12th century. The Millennium Tower is a 645-foot skyscraper packed with hundreds of people, elevators, plumbing, and modern infrastructure. You cannot simply let a modern skyscraper lean indefinitely. Engineers are constantly monitoring the building with lasers and sensors, measuring every single millimeter of movement. They are confident that the sinking will eventually stop completely once the soil beneath the friction piles finishes compressing. But confident is not exactly a guarantee, and eventually is not exactly a timeline you want to hear when your living room floor is slanted. The story of the Millennium Tower is a modern tragedy of high-stakes real estate. It is a story of ambition, of pushing the absolute limits of engineering, and ultimately of the disastrous consequences when those limits push back. But what does this tell us about big real estate? It tells us that in the relentless race to build taller, faster, and more profitably, the fundamentals are sometimes ignored. Not the foundation piles, those were carefully calculated. But the fundamental question, is this the right choice for the long term, or is it just the cheapest choice for right now? The developers of the Millennium Tower saved tens of millions of dollars by choosing friction piles instead of bedrock piles. At the time, it probably looked like a brilliant business decision. It was legal, it was approved by the city, and it maximized their profit margins. But the laws of physics do not care about your profit margins. If you put a 700 million pound concrete building on soft mud, gravity will sooner or later collect its debt. The Millennium Tower stands today as a $350 million monument to hubris, a spectacular, luxurious failure that will forever serve as a cautionary tale for city planners, engineers, and anyone who thinks they can outsmart the earth beneath their feet. What do you think? Was the Millennium Tower doomed from the moment they broke ground? Or was it just a victim of the massive construction project next door? And the big question, would you ever live in a leaning skyscraper, even if you got a massive discount? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. If you appreciated this deep dive into one of the most expensive engineering disasters in American history, hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see more investigations into the world's biggest megabuilds and architectural failures, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.